Hello and welcome to a video featuring a very particular car with a very particular set of skills. Problem being, this particular car can't use its particular set of skills because it has a particular problem. I'm going to stop saying particular now. This is a Citroen Xantia Activa. Viewers of this channel, regular viewers, will know what a Xantia Activa is. In fact, I've been back through the numbers, I've been crunching the numbers recently, going off on one with the stats, and videos featuring Xantia Activas have by far the highest viewer retention percentages of any other video on the channel. So that means that the videos are either really, really good, or you people are intelligent and you really like your Xantia Activas. So well done you. So yeah, for those who know that this is a Citroen Xantia Activa and know what that is, I'm going to do the control rods. We've got a problem, so like you know what that is. For those who don't know what a Xantia Activa is, a Citroen Xantia Activa is a car that I own. Not this one, this is another car. In fact, the car I own, there's a video of it previously. One of the corners it's in, the link. The guy I got that car off originally owned that, because I got it off him. And then in waiting for me to fix it, he bought this one. So I bought his off him because it was already here and it was cheap, and I thought, well, it still needs fixing and it's, you know, I want it. And he got this one. So we've both got broken Activas now, so this is going really well. So as I say, for those who don't know what a Xantia Activa is, Citroen Xantia is a kind of D-segment large hatchback from the 90s. Mondeo rival, Vectra rival, Laguna rival, Primera rival, that kind of thing. It replaced the BX. Nothing mad in that. They higher spec versions of it. They all use the hydropneumatic suspension system, but the higher spec version used a computer controlled version of that called Hydroactive 2. Then there was this oddball one called the Activa. The Activa was based on a concept car that came out back in, well, late 80s. And it was basically a car that combated body roll. So it doesn't have active suspension, but it does have an active anti-roll bar front and rear. So when it goes around a corner, when it detects a bit of body roll, it corrects itself. Very clever. It actually works very, very well. It keeps a smooth ride and goes around corners ridiculously quickly because it doesn't lean. Now the problem is, this particular car uses a lot of very specific parts. I said I wasn't going to use that word again. Yeah, it uses a lot of very specific parts to achieve this. And of course, well, Citroen don't service the parts for any of their older cars. And we're talking like the most common ones. So something really oddball like this, yeah, they don't do it. And we have a problem with one of the parts, and it is an important part. It's this. Well, these. There's another one on the other side. This is a control rod. We've got a problem with the control. No, not that sort of control rod. No, not that. Not that. Yeah, I know that would be bad. It would be bad. No, it's not that. It's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. This rod here is very important. This rod here is specific, done it again, to the Activa system. So what this rod does is it connects to the bottom of the wishbone on both sides, on the track control arm, wishbone, whatever you want to call it, bolts to the front of it here, and because the wishbone pivots like this, if you imagine this is where the bolt is, it's kind of doing that. That means this rod here is doing this. So this here is moving like this. And it's not much, but it doesn't need to be much. And it's connected to a rod that goes across the subframe with an electronic sensor and valve in the middle. And there's obviously a connection on each side. So when the car is going along, it knows it's moving. It knows how much steering input you've got. If you go around a corner and one of the wishbones starts to do this and the other one starts to do this, it knows that the car is leaning. So it jacks it back the other way. And this is how it senses that. So if you have any play at all in these rods, it's going to have quite a big impact. They're very sensitive, and we got play. So this end here fixes to the wishbone. This end here connects to the control rod that runs laterally across the car. There's a clamp here, which is this, and that clamps it to the subframe. So basically you have this bush here, this plastic bush thing, which clamps here, like so. And then that's bolted to the subframe, so it kind of moves like So gonna get it all in shot? Going around corners, there you go, that's how it moves. Problem is, oh dear. Now, the reason we got play is, I don't know if you can see it. Might be able to see it. Yeah, just about. You see it's wasted away.
I've wasted away!
So that means that the clamp that goes here, it's flapping about in that. That's no good. Now, the problem is the bushes themselves are a little bit worn as well. But they're not actually that bad. And I've clicked it back together, and now I'm going to have to get a screwdriver to take it apart again. There we go. Right. So some of that is worn away inside, unfortunately, but it's not that bad. These are quite often worse than this. In fact, I've seen them where they're sort of worn. They've got a little divot worn out of them here because it's gone clean through. That is probably salvageable. Problem is, I don't actually know how bad this has got because of the state of the rod. I think what we're going to have to do is shot blast it. I think it's probably going to be the safest way. Can't get that bush off either. No, that's knackered. Great. So yeah, of course you can't buy these anymore. But yeah, it's lost a lot of weight there. It really has. And these rods are sensitive. So what I'll do to try and demonstrate how sensitive these are is I will try and manipulate the rods that are on the car and see if we can make the hub move up and down. So to do that, we need to start the engine. It's on high at the moment. And then what we'll do is I'll lower the suspension and then I can play with the rods at the front. What the hell? Why have you lifted yourself off the floor? Is it going to wee? It's going to wee against this, isn't it? I saw it sniffing around that ramp earlier on. Right, so as you can see, I've moved all the crap on the ramp so you can actually see that I'm not cheating here. The front is on the jack. The front wheels are off. But now it's decided to become a three-wheel car. And that might be because the rods in the front are disconnected. But basically it thinks at the moment that it's trying to go around a right-hand bend. So it's compressed this side and it will be trying to extend the other side on the passenger, on the front, sorry. In there, you can see that is the attachment that the rod, well that's the rod that runs left to right across the car. And the control rods here would normally attach to that. One of the other problems these things can have is that this end here, as had actually happened with this one, they get rusted up and they stick. So this was really, really seized. The other one had loads of play in it. But what I want to do is manipulate that rod there and see what happens. I pulled it and that rear wheel went higher in the arch. If I push it, oh there you go. So if the car thinks it's going around the left-hand corner, it will do that. And if it thinks it's going around the right-hand corner, it will do that. It's clever, isn't it? And you can see it on the front wheels. There we go, we're going around a right-hand bend there. Now for a left-hand bend. Right-hand bend. Left-hand bend. Right-hand bend. Left-hand bend. Isn't it clever? It's broken, but it's clever. So you can kind of see how clever these things are. But you can also imagine that that rod there that I was moving with the pliers, I'm just putting pressure on it. It's not actually sliding left or right. I'm just applying a bit of pressure. So if you've got play in that control rod along the bottom of the wishbone, you can see how that would make a difference. The car isn't going to react quickly because it's too busy trying to take up the slack. So what we need to do is fix that play, but that is not going to be straightforward. There are a couple of ways you could do it. You could cut it here and here and weld in a new piece of bar. You could, I think the nicest way to do it would actually be to, or sort of machine it back here to here, so the center of it was slightly narrower diameter, leaving you a little ridge top and bottom there, and then make like some sort of brass two-piece bush that goes over it, and then that clamp holds it in place, because then in theory it would prevent it from happening again. Although this is like 130,000 miles worth of use, and that car is, well, it's nearly 30 years old, so I don't really think it's that big a deal, is it? The quickest way to do it, because nobody got time for that, I think, is going to be, and it's a bit Heath Robinson, I think the quickest thing to do is going to be to weld along here. Bring the welder up nice and hot and fill it in, and then try and dress it back. It's going to be bloody difficult to dress it back and get it perfectly round, but it's not moving much, is it? I mean, it's moving a bit, but I think it's our best shot, if I'm honest. No issues with it tempering the metal or anything like that. There's no real weight on this. All it's doing is working against that rod on the center there, but it does need to be nice and tight. And at the moment, it ain't. The bush, if I put the bush on a bit that isn't worn away, so you've got the bush there, and these bushes they're not mint, but if you put that bush there and then click that over it, it's still got a bit of play, but not as much. There, I mean, look, that's the difference. So I don't know if you can see it. That's the amount, as much play as you've got. Maybe a mil. Here, it's like 3-4 mil. Those bushes are a little bit sad, but they're not available either. Axe of a club in France were reproducing them. I saw, but they've stopped at the moment. So, I mean, you could have them 3D printed. It wouldn't really be that hard to do, but it's just a case of someone having to actually do it. I mean, I have seen them. I think I've seen them for sale a couple of places. But I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. The place I can't remember. Where was it? I can't remember where it was. The only place I've seen one of these, they had a pair of these, just one pair. Bear in mind, you need a pair for each side. £36 they wanted per pair. That is highway robbery, basically. So, yeah, I think it was in Europe or something, one of the XM places or something. But yes. So what I'm thinking is build this up with the welder, and then also what I'm thinking is I'll pack this full of grease, so it's got grease in here. But I'm thinking of putting an O-ring there and there on the bar itself, so that the grease can't get out. I don't know if it'll work. But we'll have a go. Because that is the cheapest way to do it. And even this is going to take a long time. But first thing I need to do is shot blast this and the other one. Get them nice and clean in that area there. And then I'll do the welding and the grinding and everything. And then what I'll probably do is shot blast the rest of it completely in its entirety, and paint them. We might as well, haven't we? Because all the paint's come off. They were black, so we can do them again. But it's just going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult grinding that down to get that perfectly round. It's going to take a lot of just very gently going over it. Take a long time. But if you've got an Activa, you want it to activate. they're ready for welding. I mean, there's nothing for it really. It's just a case of laying up some. I mean, you can see. Look at that. Put it against the t-shirt. Is that what? You can see all the flat bits in it. So that some of this, I think, it's had these done already at some point, but that was too far gone because see that flat spot there? We wouldn't have seen that if it weren't for shot blasting it. That's probably where it was touching the subframe because the bushes went. So it's just going to need a fair bit of, yeah, just going to have to go all over it. It'll look bloody awful. But hopefully it'll work. These little, they're supposed to be little sponge bushes that go around the end of these joints, but they're knackered. But pack these full of grease. This car is not going to do 10,000 miles a year anymore. It's now a classic. So I think we'll be all right. I think what I'll do is I'll probably put a couple of O-rings in there. I think I've got some big fat O-rings that can go in there. So I'll put some grease in, put an O-ring in, and hopefully that will stop most of the grease getting out and crap going in, basically. Right. Better go and get the welder. I don't know if I've actually mentioned this, but I've got an Activa as well. I mean, I've also got... Oh, in the reflect... Oh, no, that's just a shelf. Yeah, no, and it is, yes, it is an SM. I do have an SM. It does look a little bit sad, but yeah, I haven't mentioned that, but I think I've mentioned that I've got one of these. Don't think I've mentioned... Oh, did I take out that newspaper page I was going to do? Note to self, look at that later, Daily Mail. I don't know, it is a bit of a bodge. The ideal thing to do would be to, well, you could make a new one. A lot of people go, you could just make new ones. Weld a ball on the end, but it's getting the alignment right. You get the alignment wrong in the shape of that, and you drive down the road like this. So yeah, it's important to get the alignment right. So it's not ideal. It isn't an ideal way of doing it. Realistically, it's the quickest way that will work. I'm just worried it's going to eat the bushes because I won't get it perfectly round, but I can only do my best. Yeah, kudos to the man who decided to do welding on one of the hottest days of the year. Like 29 degrees now. It's horrible. But they is modified. So now I'm going to run these through the shot blaster again, do the whole thing, and then paint them. I've got them fairly snug in those bushes. Those bushes are a bit worn. But, yeah, there's a lot of meat left on them. You know, long term, it'll need new bushes. But then if you get new bushes, they won't fit this anymore because that's now bigger. It's not the same size all the way up. I've had to actually swell it out. It doesn't look round there at all on the screen. It feels alright, but it looks bloody awful on that screen. Lumpy and as anything. But if I put the bushes on, oh, that one's the wrong one. I had matched pairs because they're all worn at slightly different rates. Oh no, I've got my matched halves around the wrong way. So yeah, you've got your bush on there, but it's not. There's like a tiny amount of play in it. And of course, when it's bolted up, it's clamped between two bits of metal as well. So it will wear its way into the plastic a little bit more. But it's not like it fully rotates like that. It only moves like this. So, yeah. So I'm going to give them a paint. And then immediately have to wipe the paint off the bit that's going to go inside the bush. Once it's dried. And then, yeah. Well, no, I'm not going to paint them. I'm going to shot blast them first. Then I'm going to paint them. And then come back tomorrow when they're dry and fit them to the car. Right, so it's taken an unreasonably long amount of time to do that, but they've turned into a helmet. Oh, no, they haven't. They're hanging on the back of a BX. So they've had one light dusting of paint. They're shot blasted. You will see bits of the paint where it's very thin. This is just the sort of the first bit. that goes on to allow it to give something to stick. But you can see how much thicker. Oh, you can't see it because it won't bloody focus. Come on. Oh, that's good, isn't it? You can see how much fatter it is. That's to make up the difference in the bushes. So in the absence of having some bushes that will actually do the job, I mean, it's not ideal, but it'll work. And for the amount of miles this thing is going to do, oh, we've got the light on. Yeah, for the amount of miles this thing's going to do, oh, look. A car of taste, look at that. Yeah, for the amount of miles this thing's going to do, I'm sure they'll probably be good for another 5-6 years, something like that. But really long term, it probably wants something else doing. It's a nice colour, that, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's going to want something doing long term. But for now, this will do the job. These brakes, oh, they've been fun. Trying to put V6 brakes on it. V6 brakes are fittable to these cars. Why have they not been fitted, you might ask? That's the old brakes. Well, they do fit these cars. If you get the carriers from a Xantia, not an XM, not the customer's fault. But yeah, it's quite a nice car, this. Pretty much the same as mine, although it is a slightly later one. So you've got a fake wood dashboard and a actually real wood gear knob, I believe. I think that's real. It doesn't have a sunroof, but it does have aircon. I also believe this car is going to be featured on number 27 sometime soon, possibly in the next couple of months. He will, of course, be trying to keep that secret, but that's what this channel's about, isn't it? Investigations. I reveal things. Get information on the old down low, the old... So yeah, I believe he's going to be driving that and then going, oh, why is it leaning? It's not supposed to. And I'll be like, oh, I guess I've done something wrong with the rods. No, they'll be all right. They'll be fine. Right, well, I can't do much more now. I've got to put another coat on them before I go. I'm going to put some cars away now. And then fit them again tomorrow. Because I can't put them on at the moment because the paint's wet. Plus, it's home time. Look, it's home time. Gone home time, really. But right, so yeah, I'll pick it up in the morning. I'll tell you what we'll do, actually. Look, what I'm going to do, just for a laugh. I'm going to make it cock its leg, like before, and then leave it overnight. See if it can stand all night on one leg. Let's see if it can stay like that all night. It doesn't do it any harm. It's just for fun. I don't think it will. I think eventually... No, look! The pressure's going. Oh, you lazy. Hello, goodly people of the internet. It is the day after the weekend, which is a Monday. That's how calendars work. I have been away. I put an extra coat of paint on our control rods before I left. So these have had an extra coat of paint, and that's been going off over the weekend and going nice and hard. I was at the Super Touring Power 2 event at Brands Hatch over the weekend, and it's a wonderful event. It's a brilliant event. Got laughed at though because I took my BX, and apparently that is a funny car to some people. These people were stood next to cars that I would sort of think that's not really that special, but hey, different things for different people. But no, the BX is something we will all have a giggle at, apparently. So I'm not bitter. I'm fine. I'm fine. And I expect the Activa probably would have been in that kind of realm too. It would have been a, oh, what's that doing here? Because that's one of the things they said. And I would guarantee you with that, okay, put that up against any of the road-going versions of the Super Tourers. So you're talking BMW 318IS, not an M3, 318IS, Peugeot 406, Renault Laguna, Mondeo ST24, Cavalier, Cavalier GSI originally, and then a Vectra GSI, which is probably worse than a Cavalier GSI. Put that up around Brands Hatch against any of those cars, that slaughters them. I will put my name on the line. That wins. But that's not about... No, that's not what this video is about. This video is about me finishing this car and stopping bitching about people.
I'm fine.
So, control rods. They're painted. They're prepped. I have made rudimentary sort of rubber seal. Well, they are just rubber seals. They're O-rings. But I've positioned them in a way that when it connects to the rod on the car, it should stop grit getting in. It's quite heavily pitted, the ball joint end on there. Look, you're not going to focus because it's on the selfie camera, but yeah, it's quite heavily pitted. And there is actually a flat section here, so it really has worn away, but I'm hoping with a bit of grease and everything it should be okay. So what I need to do is fit this to the car and then take it off again. And you're thinking, why? Do you just like making jobs harder for yourself? No, there is a reason. Okay, so the control rods are now loosely in position. You can see it's bolted to the underside of the wishbone there. I know that wishbone bolt's undone, don't worry about that. I haven't put the car back on its wheels yet. And then it would normally connect into that there, but obviously I'm going to do some jiggery pokery first. But that's where it goes. So what I need to do is assemble everything loosely to work out where the plastic bush there sits on the arm, roughly where it sits, because then I'm going to take the paint off the arm or off the rod where that bush would go. Because what I don't want is the bush to pick up bits of paint, basically. I don't want the bush to take the paint off the arm, because then all that paint will stay in there and go inside the grease that I'm going to put in the bush and just contaminate it and make it all manky and possibly slightly abrasive. So I shall remove the paint. Also, the paint's made it a little bit tight clearance-wise. I can't actually get the bush to click back together now. It's that fine margin. So I'll take some paint off once I know roughly where it needs to be. And then I can put on the O-rings and grease that I'm going to put in that bush. And that should then give us a nice fitment. And I've cleaned up the ball joint. I've done my best to clean those out, those rods on the end there. But, I mean, I think you probably could take them off inside. Let's have a look. Where do they go? I think that's it here. Because this is how you adjust the left-right lean, basically. That one and that one there. So I think they come off and go. Yeah, it does. Is that one? Yeah. So yeah, I could, but I'm not going to start prattling about with this because there is a chance I'll just put all this back together and it will line up and it won't be sitting to one side. And I don't want to make extra work for myself because it's not my. Well, the guy's paying me and he's going to look at that and go, well, it doesn't need anything doing. But, yeah. So, I think that is good enough. For what we need, I think that is good enough. So, I will, well, yeah, I'll bolt all these up and try and get some markings and see where of the carefully, lovingly applied paint I need to take it off. So, I've taken some paint off. I haven't gone absolutely nuts because obviously I want to remove as little as possible. But my idea is to put these two O-rings in here and then that will sit once I've got the clearances right and everything. It will kind of be like that. And then I'll pop a load of grease on the inner part. I mean, these O-rings aren't going to be complete, grease seals. They're not going to stop grease getting out. It's just offering a little bit more than nothing. So yeah, I'll put a load of grease in there and then that'll all get put back together. He says, now it won't click back together because it's got the O-rings in there. So what I don't want is the O-rings to be too tight because then they'll just get eaten up. No! But yeah, I'll play with the clearances and everything and until I'm happy. And yeah, pop it all back together. And then this... Well, we can bolt it back into the car and see, well, make sure the car doesn't fall over, basically. Like, as in, lean to one side. So, yeah, right, I'll pick it up when it's all fitted. Right, so to give you a quick update on what I'm doing, and this kind of rig that I've got here, which is a jack, actually shows you kind of what these rods are doing. So I've popped this one back into place. So this is now bolted in place. Not tight, I'll do that when it's at the right ride height. But to do this, I had to jack up the wheel hub. So the wheel hub is now Is that normal ride height? I don't think it is. I think it's probably a little bit lower than normal. I don't know, actually. Yeah, that's a little bit lower than normal ride height at the moment. In order to get this rod here aligned, because originally when the suspension was on droop, the ball joint was pointing this way, and that is how it manipulates that rod in the middle, which manipulates the valve. So when I let this suspension down, let's see if I can zoom in, you'll see it pull. Well, you probably won't. No, you don't really see a hell of a lot at all, do you? But it did. It moved it. Right, so I'm going to try and show you on this side. So this is the driver's side, and at the moment the wheel is on full droop. And as you can see, the rod there and the ball joint there, they don't not line up at all. And the only way to get them line up is to jack up the suspension. Now the funny thing is, because the car is off and there's no pressure, the anti-roll bar is effectively not connected. So if I jack up the driver's side, the passenger side will do nothing. On a rigid anti-roll bar, which, well, all other cars have, and you would argue inferior cars, the passenger side will try and replicate what the driver's side is doing. But when the engine's off on this car, or if you're driving along in a straight line with no steering lock on, this car doesn't. So if I start jacking this hub up here, you can see the arm moving. This is the anti-roll bar here that you're looking at. So that is moving up, and as it's moving up, obviously it's connected to the suspension wishbone. As it's moving up, this is also trying to rotate in. I can't bend my hand around the right way, inwards towards the car. And this will start binding up on that, and it has. Oof, God. And that's actually going to be quite a tight squeeze, that one. I mean, the longevity of this repair is unknown because we're into uncharted territory. We are not using new parts. We are using old parts. But in the absence of new parts, and I'm sure there are Activa specialists out there more seasoned than I who will probably know that there was a better way around it than this, but this is what I did because it's all I had. So I'm just loosening the clamp just to get some adjustment because this thing's too far back at the moment, because you can adjust it as well. There we go. And oh, you can see the bit I haven't painted there. And then just try, hopefully. Do you reckon that bit of underseal was strong enough to lever against? Probably not. Right. Go on. There you go. So, I will then just see if I can push. There you go, just push that back a bit more. I don't want it to foul the body, obviously. It needs to be about there. It's annoying. I've taken off more paint than I needed to on that side. Right, so that is now connected to the wishbone. There's the bolt there, which has got a slot in it so you can slide the rod back and forth. So now that rod is connected to that wishbone and will replicate what that wishbone does. Like try and flex if it's going around a corner. Now I'm going to torque all these nuts and bolts up, and I'm not going to film it because I don't want to be put off. I want to concentrate on what I'm doing. So I'm going to finish this all off, pop the wheels on it. It doesn't have, the eagle-eyed of you are noticing that it has no brakes. I know it has no brakes. Can't drive it. It's got no brakes. The reason it has no brakes is because it was having a V6 caliper conversion, and it can't have one because we were sent the wrong parts and can't find any of the right parts. So it's just going to have, although they're only like 5mm difference in diameter, although the V6 pads are a lot bigger. Anyway, you see how easily I just go off the chain. So I'm going to hook everything back up, bolt everything back up, we'll put the wheels back on it, and then I'll lower it, I'll film that bit, we'll lower it back down, let it sit at the right ride height. I need to re-torque the wishbone bolts once I've done that, and we'll see if it tilts, if it leans. If it leans, it's because I've changed all the, taken the play out of everything, and now the rods in the middle need adjusting, but I don't think it will. It shouldn't do. And what it also shouldn't do now is the Activa shuffle. So if you ever see an Activa at traffic lights kind of going like that, it's because those ball joints there are seized up, as the one on driver's side was properly seized up. Passenger side wasn't too bad. Driver's side, I mean, it wasn't a ball joint; it was just a rigid joint. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna be quietly, for once, in a rare display of optimism. I think it's gonna be okay. I don't think it'll need adjusting, but we'll find out. Right, a little bit of time has passed because it is a working environment, and I can't do things as quickly as I would like. But the wheels are back on. So what I'm going to do is lower the car first without the engine running, just to see what happens. I don't know what it'll do. It might fall over, it might go to the floor, it might stay up high, who knows. And then when I've done that, I'll try and set it at normal ride height, and we'll measure it and see how level it is. And I will also remember to do up the wishbone bushes, because if I don't, well, I imagine my insurance legal cover will be tested. Right, so let us have a look. I'm intrigued as much as anything because of all that silly farting around with it I was doing earlier on. Making it lift its back wheel, so... Oof. Yeah, it's done what I thought it would do. Yeah, kind of assumed that would be the case. That is what a BX would do. That's what being a mechanic is. Just lots of putting the ramp up and down. Which could be why I called the channel that. But isn't. So the height lever is currently at normal. And now we wait. Oh, not waiting too long, that's good. It is, well, it's going up on the left, not the right. But I did play silly buggers with it, remember? Come on, old girl. I've confused it a bit, I think. Still on the jack, so I can't. Let's put it on high. Let's just max everything out. Get that jack out the way. Talk among yourselves. Activas are so slow at doing this. Oh, are you done? Yes, I believe so. Right, so now let's go back down to normal and see if she sits level. I'm less confident than I was. Oh no, I think we're... How are we? Well, I have, right, you're gonna like this. Do you remember the picnic table for the C6, the blue one? Look what I found. Picnic table for a Xantia. Or anything else with a 4x108 stud pattern. So what I can do with this is measure all sorts. Look. 410 on the nose. 410. So on this side it's going to be about 390, something like that, I reckon. 395. So I am going to have to play with it. Stop sniggering. Oh no, it's not even that. Well, it moved then, so that's no help. 387. Activas are funny though, because you can make them do this. Did you ever see that trade, the APT?
Okay, Brian, hit it.
Now you have to excuse the, well, yeah, the cooling fan is quite hot, so the cooling fans are switching between low and high. So I'll just show you what I'm doing. I'm adjusting this. It's not quite there. That's the wrong way. Right, I'll play with it with the spanners, but yeah, basically this is fine-tuning the rods that run across the car. I've got it closer just by playing silly buggers with the linkages, making it dance, but it's not quite there. It's very slightly lower on this side, although it does have an issue. Every time the pressure regulator clicks, it ducks, and I can't remember why they do that. I'm still learning at this stage. But this is what I had to do with mine. Mine was sat, like literally, it was on one side, it hadn't even raised. It was miles out. So I shall play with this until it sets at the right height, and then I'll take it off the ramp. That took a long time, and it's very hot under there. It's a hell of a lot better. A hell of a lot better than it was before. It was kind of doing this. Now it does fluctuate slightly when the regulator clicks in and out. Talking about 3mm side to side. You done? Yeah, we're talking about 3mm side to side. It ranges between 109. Well, I've had to scrap my measurements from the side because I ended up playing with all the heights, and now it's all gone out again. So measuring it underneath, I was taking it from the subframe bolts to a fixed point on the ramp, and it was going between 198 and 201 mil on that side and that side, but at opposite times. So if it was at 198 this side, it'd be at 201 that side, and then the regulator would tick and it'd go 198, 201, or the other way around or something like that. And that's about as good as I'm going to get it, because I could be here all day trying to get that perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and I still haven't test driven it, and I can't test drive it because it has no brakes. And if I try and test drive it with no brakes, I mean, I'd get a really good video out of it. Be really good content, but I fear at the cost of my morals, so I'm going to leave it here. That's the Activa done from the height point of view. The rods are done, they're in, they're nice, they're tight, there's no play in them, they're moving around. The car is not shuffling. I mean, it is shuffling a tiny amount. Whether you'll be able to feel that or not on the road, I don't know. There is a chance. You know, it's not going to be like mine at the lights where it pulls up and it sits there going. It's like a sort of doorman that's fallen asleep. Like that. This one isn't. This one's like someone who's got a slight wobble on, you know. Oh, windy pops. Right, that'll do. That's how you do silly things with an Activa, and I'm going to go and sit in a fridge.